Hello, FireFit fans and athletes. My name is Jordan King, and I've been competing in FireFit, or the Firefighter Combat Challenge, for 12 years now, going on 13 years. I have learned some tips and tricks from experience in those 12 years. I've also learned some tips and tricks from other people in the sport. And so I would love the opportunity to be able to share those with you so you guys can shave time off your own runs and everybody can hit a personal best this year. Just so you know about me, I race for Edmonton Fire Rescue. I've been a part of 4 national relay championships. I'm a part of a world record holding relay national team. I've been the over 40 champion twice in Canada, and in 2024 I was the national champion in Canada. So I do have some experience in this sport. What we're going over today is the hammer evolution of the course, also known as the Kaiser. I want to give you 7 tips to shave some time off your hammer and hopefully get you moving with momentum through the rest of the course. But first, I have to get changed. I'm in gear now. I'm not going to wear a pack because it'll make it too hard to hear while I'm describing what we're doing. The first tip that I want to talk about when doing the hammer is approaching the hammer from the side and not from the back. So most people's tendency when you're coming off the tower is to just make a straight line up the back of the hammer. So you'll come here and you'll take a couple of check steps and then you'll get down and you'll grab onto the hammer. I don't recommend doing that. My first tip is approach from the side. So you're going to come off the tower, you're going to run till you get close, and then you're in a single hop. You're going to try to land in position in one motion. The main reason you're doing that is because it helps to kill your forward momentum. So there can be a tendency when you come up from the back of the hammer, if you lean on your toes and you're not able to stop, you can fall off the front of the hammer, and that is going to lose a lot of time. So if you approach from the side, if you run up, that sideways momentum kills your forward momentum and allows you to land and grab and get ready to start hitting. One of the other reasons I suggest that you approach from the side is because when you run up the back, you'll have a tendency to take extra steps. So you'll slow down here, then you'll take a couple steps, then you'll take positioning steps. And so that can be 2 to 4 extra steps, and you're wasting time. Even though the hammer is a short event, our course is about going as fast as possible. And if you can shave 1 or 2 seconds here, that'll translate down the course for you. So if I was to show you this a little bit at speed, I'm going to come off the tower, I'm going to land and start hitting. My feet are in the right position, I've killed my forward momentum, and I can get right to the task. The second tip for getting a faster hammer is all about foot placement. You want your feet at the front. So when I approach the hammer from the side and I'm landing in position, you'll notice that my left foot is all the way at the front as far as it can go, and my right foot is staggered a little. It is very important to keep your feet up front. So you can either have both feet up front like this or one staggered, but you're going to keep this foot at the front for the entire duration of the evolution. So the reason is when I'm hitting from this position, you can see that my strike, the hammer is almost starting to be vertical. The shaft of the hammer is almost starting to be vertical.
That's what she said.
If I hop like this, you can see how much that changes the angle that the hammer strikes. And what's happening is all of that distance there, I'm losing that speed and that power, and it's going to take extra hits and it's going to take longer. So you want to have at a minimum 1 foot in front of the front plate of the hammer the entire time. That's going to give you your maximum swing length, your maximum force, and it's going to shorten the number of hits it takes to do your hammer. So you can see here, if I hit it a few times, my feet are not moving. There's a tendency, especially when you're beginning, you get up and you start hitting and you're hopping. And now you can see I've got no more power left. I'm way ahead of the hammer. It's going to take way more hits if you do it this way. Okay, tip number 3 is to hit with your hips and your core. The energy is not coming from your arms. Also, full disclosure, between tips 2 and 3, I did a 2-hour workout, so I'm tired.
Nice.
Now, most people have a tendency when they start hitting with the hammer is they think it's like swinging an axe. So hands are apart and there's these big chopping swings. That's not how this hammer works. The best way to do this is once you're on the hammer, you're going to grab with both hands close, just like this, and then you're going to hit, but you're going to drive up with your hips, and your core through your lats is going to be tight to transfer that energy into the hammer head. So like this.
Yeah, boy.
Now, I over-exaggerated that a little bit just so you can see what it looks like. What you're not going to do is just keep this still and try and do this. You're not going to generate very much energy that way.
Stop it. Get some help.
So the third tip is generate that energy for the hit from your hips and your core working together, and keep your hands close towards the head of the hammer. Remember that the Canadian hammer is more about speed than power. If you hit it as hard as you can, or you hit it quickly, it goes the same distance. So you need to be thinking about cycling fast more than hitting it really, really hard. Okay, tip number 4. Tip number 4 is about breathing. So the hammer, because it involves a lot of core and it's somewhat torsional, you have a real tendency to hold your breath. The problem is you can make it through this event, but if you hold your breath for 4 to 8 seconds and then you're trying to finish the course, you're going to be in real trouble. So you need to work on ways to cue yourself to breathe through the hammer. The way you do that is through forcible exhales. You want to force your exhales, focus on your exhales. The way I do that, even though people make fun of me, is I do it through grunting. So what's going to happen is when I'm hitting the hammer, I'm going to grunt through 2 or 3 hits. So what that does, especially when you're on air wearing a mask, is you can hear yourself exhaling and it's forcing you to not hold your breath. Otherwise, there's a tendency to like clamp down, and you're holding your breath, and then you get in real trouble later down the course because you're starting to limit your oxygen. So tip number 4, make sure you're breathing while you're hitting the hammer. Tip number 5 is squeeze. This sounds simple, but this is an important piece of the puzzle when you're doing hammer. So when you hit with the hammer, you want to grip and squeeze as hard as you can, because you do not want the hammer on contact to twist. If it twists, you lose all of your energy. So what I encourage people to do is to approach both hands together, and then you're going to squeeze as hard as you can, especially on contact. So on contact, you're going to squeeze. On the rebound, you can relax, and I even sometimes can re-grip up the hammer a little bit, but right at the point of contact, I re-grip as hard as I can to make sure there's no twisting, that the hammer goes all the way and all of the energy goes into the front face of the hammer. Tip number 6 is about aim. Where are we going to hit the hammer on the front face of the plate? So You're going to grab onto the hammer. You want to aim towards the middle of the plate. If you hit too high to the top, the energy isn't going in at a straight line and you're not going to maximize the distance of the Kaiser. So you want to aim towards the middle. The problem I find with most people is when you aim at the middle, you hit high. So I aim a touch below middle, and then that way I end up hitting in the middle. You're gonna have to test this out yourself to see what adjustments you need to make for yourself. But ideally, you wanna be making contact in the middle of the plate. Secondly, you're not trying to hit the hammer so that the face ends up flush. You do actually wanna hit it on a little bit of an angle so the tip of the hammer is making contact. The reason you do that is because you get better recoil. So if you hit it at that angle, the up has more bounce to it, takes less energy to raise it back up. So again, you're gonna grab, I'm gonna aim just below middle, which usually means I end up hitting at the middle, and I don't wanna be on the top, and I don't wanna be left or right. The Canadian Kaiser is different than the American one. For the Canadian Kaiser, you want to hit the middle. So again, you want to be watching where that impact is, and I'm aiming just below middle to make sure I'm hitting the center of the plate. Okay, the final tip, tip number 7, you need to treat the end of the hammer like the beginning of the pylons. So you need to explode off like a sprinter start once you're done. The hammer has to go into the box, and then you're going to be running for the first pylon at the corner. So what we don't want is for you to make your last hit, stand up, look around, throw this down, and then think about starting to run as you move towards the pylons. You need to think about the last hit on the hammer, kind of like the start gun of a race shooting you off.
Away first time, good start from Pat.
So you're gonna hit and go. This sport is all about maximizing transitions and coming with momentum into the next event. And so you need to think about when the hammer is done, the pylons start, and you're getting shot out of a cannon. So those are the 7 tips that I suggest for making your hammer faster. Hopefully you can use some or all of these tips to shave a few seconds off of your Kaiser evolution. So remember, the first tip is to approach from the side. The second tip is to keep your feet up at the front. The third tip is to hit with your hips and your core. The fourth tip is to remember to breathe. The fifth tip is to squeeze tight when you make contact. The sixth tip is to aim at the center of the plate with the hammer a little bit on an angle. And the 7th tip is to explode off the hammer and treat the end of the hammer like the beginning of the pylons. I'll see you next time for tips about other events in the course.